I'm winning. Can't tell me I'm not. Yeah. Ain't nobody gon' tell me I'm not. I'm winning. Can't tell me I'm not. Yeah. Ain't nobody gon' tell me I'm not. I'm winning. Can't tell me I'm not. Ain't nobody gon' tell me I'm not. I'm winning.
Let's go.
Nobody gon' tell me I'm not.
Both fists raised, we praise God for victory. The enemy can celebrate in the face of my enemy. The energy I used to hate no longer part of me. So pardon me for trusting the vengeance to the one who parts the sea. He paid the fee so I can go free. I call that bail money. Chasing back so you can be rich. I call that fail money. Sowing out so you can reap later. I call that well money. Wise with the talents he gave us. Yeah, that's how we coming. We ain't running, never back down. Even if we take the L, greater is the one that's in me. Then he that's in the world. We the first, cause we were last and now the roads flip. We the light and he keeps us on. The breaker never trips. We ain't running, never back down. Even if we take the L, greater is the one that's in me. Then he that's in the world. We the first, cause we were last. The roads are now flipped. We the light and he keeps us on. The breaker never trips.
I'm winning. Can't tell me I'm not. Yeah. Ain't nobody gon' tell me I'm not. I'm winning. Can't tell me I'm not. Yeah. Ain't nobody gon' tell me I'm not. I'm winning. Can't tell me.
Yo, what's up? Be honest world. How y'all doing, man? We back. I am your host this episode, Harlem Mic. You see it, it says Harlem Mic. We in video again. And so I got my brothers here. I got Denry the Overcomer. Denry, say what's up to the people.
Yo, what's up, people? What's up? Be honest, universe. What's going on, my people?
I don't know what he's doing with this shirt, so we didn't tell him to do that. So I don't know what he's doing with that. I don't know what it is.
I got your back, man.
I got your back.
Oh,
All right,
is
cool.
that what that says?
I was
Okay.
confused.
Yeah,
I
man,
don't,
got your
nobody
back.
knew, but I didn't know what it said. But we also got Patience in the building. Say what's up to the people, Patience.
What up? Be honest,
The feature
universe.
kid.
We appreciate you guys tuning in with us, man. Rocking with us. As always, man. We're gonna be honest, man. So hope y'all ready. Strap in. Let's go.
Hey, by the way, that was one of Mike's 12 children in the background.
That's an honest situation. He was telling me he
That's
could
an
see the
honest
level in his
situation.
game.
That's true.
So
That's
this is what
true.
happens on Be Honest. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But listen, fellas,
We're not editing. We're not editing.
No,
like,
we're not editing nothing. This is just what it is, man. I'm cool with it, man. So, fellas, we're gonna have a great conversation, man. I think we mentioned it a little bit before, but what we want to talk about is rethinking education. Education is always a crazy topic. We're parents, and we went through primary school, also higher education, graduate level. So rethinking education. This is a thing. It's many different dynamics. And Denry sent this a couple weeks ago. The clip of on the Breakfast Club a couple of years ago. DJ Envy and Killer Mike was on the show, and Killer Mike was the guest, and they were talking about public school and private school, and it spawned into this larger conversation about education. So and we start to, and what it really does, and we're going to be honest, it not only reaches to a general level of which one to choose, but there's also a racial component to it. Where what do black, because that's what Killer Mike, and of course we have our A-Town representative right here, and Patience can speak to that about because a lot of people view Atlanta as Wakanda. So in Killer Mike, a lot of his perspective was about the fact that he went to Frederick Douglass School in Atlanta, or talking about how these historic figures that gave him a sense of pride. That was one of the reasons he was pro public school. And DJ Envy was talking about the benefits of private school, better education, and then he talked about the lack of focus teachers may have. It's a larger nuanced conversation, but very healthy. We're going to be honest here. So Denry, kick it off. Talk to us about this. First of all, where do you fall on the line of public school versus private school, and just give us a little bit of your thoughts about that. Tell the people, man.
Wow.
And
Right
be
off the bat.
honest.
Right off the bat, you want me
Right
to
out the gate.
split the room.
Right out the gate.
All
I
right.
want you to step right in. I want you to step right in the lion's den, but God will be with you in there. So go ahead, man.
So real quick, my background, I went to both. I started when I came to this country in '83. I went to Harriet Tubman right there in Harlem, Harriet Tubman, and I learned all things black. It was my best experience. I understand what Killer Mike was saying. I mean, this was the '80s. It's a different time now, school wise. We had all the resources. That was before the government started taking all the resources from education. But I learned all things black. I learned my history. I learned everything. It was a great experience. But then I went to private school, and that too was a great experience. Different uniform. We had to wear uniform. We had the teachers with the yardstick back in those days, corporal punishment. You know what I'm saying? Then high school. High school was a different monster, right? I went first to private school my freshman year. I was acting a fool, me and my boys. My mom was like, I'm not paying for you to act a fool. You going to public school. So then I went to Talent Unlimited down in 64. And was like everybody came there. It was supposed to be a art school with everything, but it was the hood school, but it was downtown. So you had cats from Brooklyn, from Queens, from the Bronx, everyone. I mean, fights every day, all that stuff. Metal detectors in the 90s. So patience when these police shootings were going on, doing especially the one in Orlando and the one in Connecticut and all that, and they were talking about maybe we should put metal detectors on school. I'm like, y'all didn't have metal detectors before?
No,
that's all we knew.
That was your
This was the 90s.
That's New York City public school, baby.
Bro, I graduated, 95, 96, and that's all we knew. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about patience.
Who was your principal? Joe Clark?
Might as well, right? Might as well.
That's right. Lean on me,
bro,
man. That's right.
I'm just saying.
Bro, we came. Let me tell you how real quick how we were searched every day. We walk into the building. First of all, you guys scan your ID, right? So then you got to go to the metal detector first.
Okay.
Then, if you look suspicious, like we would always look because they knew us, we did a couple wrongs. We got frisk search. Yeah, head to toe, frisk search. Sometimes, I had people I knew that bought some stuff, extra metal to school, and unfortunately, they had to be locked up that day. We had police.
Wow.
We had school police in the building. Wow. So you had the security and you had school police. So that was what we knew. You know what I'm saying? That was what we knew. Did I get an education value-wise? Not so sure. I mean, that was just, at that time, I was a typical Harlem teenager, just wanted to chill, girls, party, all that. Now, what am I doing for my kids? Would I put my kids through that? I'm just be honest with you. No. I'm just being honest with you. My kids go to private school. My experience in Harlem, and then the things that only by the grace of God that, I didn't end up in the pen or shot, drugged up, whatever. It was only by the grace of God. Not saying that can't happen in private schools. I want to make sure I listen to our listeners. Not saying that. My wife and I just see the value in private school education. Our kids love it. And so that's me personally, for my family. I'm not telling you what to do with yours. We've chosen to go the route private school for right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cool.
What about you, Patience?
Well, for me, man, I grew up, of course, in Atlanta, man, and I went to both as well. I went to both as well. Yeah, you back, bro. We can hear you. We can see.
Yeah. You back on planet Earth.
The joys of the internet, but kick it, man. Go ahead. So,
we're gonna start a GoFundMe fund for Mike's internet.
You ridiculous, man.
You are ridiculous.
Go ahead. We
gotta do something.
Listen, when I grew up, man, I went to, like Denry, I went to both. I went to private school and public school. So in Atlanta, we went to school. My first experience was private school all the way up until 6th grade. That was outside the city. It was in Stone Mountain, Forest Hills Christian Academy. So that's where I went all the way up until 6th grade. After 6th grade, 7th grade, I went to, I don't know if it was financial, whatever the case may be, if parents could no longer afford to send us to private school. So went to public school in the inner city, man. So back then, and I don't know how it is now, but back then, you had to go to school according to your zone, right? Wherever your residence was. If you were not paying, now you could pay to go to private school anywhere you want in the city. But if you were not paying to go to school, you had to go to school in your zone, right?
Yeah.
So in my zone was the inner city because we live right in the inner city. People in Atlanta might know Mechanicsville, Pittsburgh. That's where we live, in the inner city. All right. So I went to Sylvan Middle School, man. And boy, when I tell you, that was culture shock. I went from having, one little class. We did everything together. One teacher taught all subjects. You know what I mean? We had worship in the morning. We go to the gym for worship, and we did all this stuff together. I went to inner city, man, and it was a culture shock, bro, because you had to switch classes. You had all different teachers. It was all kind of fights, and kids from the high school from Booker T. Washington used to come down there and mess with the girls, and cats was stealing cars and carrying straps, and it was this is middle school, 7th grade. And I was so, and it was so materialistic, man. If you didn't have on Nike or back then, you know what I mean? That's why I was telling Mike, we told this story on Sabbath Sneakers about my Air trainers. That's when I got them because you had to survive, man. Public middle school is about survival, man. Fights and people getting jumped in the lunchroom, and just I had never seen none of this stuff before, So I was scared. For that first year, I was just scared out of my britches. You know what I mean? So but it taught you how you gotta adjust, man. You gotta adjust for survival. So that first year, man, I don't even remember what kind of grades I made. I know I made it through, but I don't even remember. It was just about survival. It was just about survival, me adjusting to this new environment, And so made it through that. High school. By the time I got to high school, I was well adjusted. I knew, kind of where to stay away from, what to do, or whatever, because I went to public high school. I went to Southside High School. It's Maynard Jackson now in Atlanta. For my people in Atlanta, it's by the time I got to public high school, whatever, I knew how to adjust, how to move, who to move with, who not to move with, all of that stuff. And so went through that, man. And so yeah, that was my as I say, education prior to college. But having gone through both, I'll just say this: my daughter right now, she goes to private school. So I'm not against public education.
Yeah.
However, for me, it has to be within the right context. See what I'm saying? Because there are some public schools that are really good, man. They take the education serious. You know what I mean? They do everything on par. You know what I mean? Not all public schools are just underfunded. Teachers don't care. Principal don't care. It's not like that. You see what I'm saying? So based on my experience, man, I was just like, and I saw like girls getting pregnant at public. Like I said, all public schools are not like this. But in the inner city, girls are getting pregnant in middle school, 7th to 8th grade. See what I'm saying? Girls were doing things that they should not have been doing. It was hard. I'm gonna say this: it was hard to just focus on your studies because there was so much else going on around you. See what I'm saying? It was so hard to just come to school and focus on your books. You know what I mean? Because there's so much else going on around. So I'm not against public school. I'm not against private school. Context is everything for me. You guys know that by now. And be honest, our Be Honest listeners, you guys know that about me. That's my favorite word, context. So I'm not against it, but I have to understand the context of the school. I need to know, like, is my child going to be in an environment where it's not only safe for them to learn, but where it's encouraged for them to excel. See what I
Gotcha.
mean?
Yeah.
That's the type of environment that they got to be in. So that was my experience, you know. And like I said, I see benefits to both. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. That was a long way to
It
explain.
was.
Yeah.
Not quite as long as yours, but it was.
Man.
Next time put it in a rap song. You speak faster when you're rapping. Next time put it in a rap song.
If he did it in a rap, it'd be faster.
just as long as you don't preach next time. That'll be the whole show.
That's the danger when you got two preachers here. You never know, man. Well, all three preachers. Let's not make it seem a bunch of preachers. Sorry, be honest, world. We all preach. Sorry. So you never know. We go on long rants.
Yes,
but fellas, before we shift, let me just give my take on it, because Patience, you walked right into kind of like what really I think Killer Mike and DJ Envy were talking about, and that's the racial dynamics. You said context, and it was important. So before I get there, just my experience. So like Biggie said, I was a terror since the public school era. Like I'm a public school kid. Like I've been public school my whole life. So, but what the dynamics I have, and this is some of the nuance between private and public that Patience you just mentioned, is that not all public schools are the same. So you have urban settings. In this case, we're really talking about black schools. We talk about the hood. So you have, but then you also have suburban schools and suburban public schools, which are kind of in a lot of ways like private schools, because we know a lot of education, the funding comes from property taxes. So of course, people with more money can afford more. That's one of the main issues we have in our public schools in the inner cities, is that we don't have the adequate funding. And when you think about, now you got to talk about the history of America and why is it that these inner city schools their public school system is not as good as the suburban public schools. So I had the experience growing up of I spent the first kindergarten K through fourth grade in public school in Queens. Shouts out to PS 136, Roy Wilkins. So then we moved to Long Island. Everybody, all our B.Honest people know I'm the nomad of the group. I've moved all over New York City. So I'm the nomad. So we lived in Long Island in a town called Riverhead, and that was suburban education, public school education. My mom thought this would be a great benefit for us. And so going from that circumstance, it was middle school and the first year of high school, then moving back to the city. And of course, this is when we finally got to Harlem, then going to an inner city school in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Yeah. So but it's all been public school. And we saw the dynamics just in the difference of when you grow up in an urban setting versus when you're growing up in a suburban setting. And a lot of it has to do with, again, the history of this country. You be honest, people, y'all know how we do. Fellas, y'all know this. We talk about slavery, and then slavery ends. We talk about Jim Crow. Jim Crow has segregation. We don't get segregation ending until 1964. And then, of course, you have the Brown versus Board of Ed. So we realize that we just don't have separate, we don't have equal systems. It's separate but not equal. And now that also plays its part in redlining, where they sectioned off areas where only Black people can live. Well, that's the area of less resources, less wealth. So therefore, that area can't support and sustain public schools. Yeah. So this is where DJ Envy was talking about how, hey, I can afford a better lifestyle for my children. And so in that sense, I'm not going to intentionally put them in low education, or not low education, but low funded schools where my children will have an inadequate education on comparison to other schools. And what Killer Mike was arguing was the nuance behind it. What does it mean to go to a public school in your community with people around you? And Patience, you mentioned it, where the teachers look like you and they want you to flourish, versus you go to maybe a predominantly white private school where maybe the curriculum is great, but the staff doesn't look like you, and they don't have your best interest at heart. What are they teaching? And then you get into the stickier dynamics when you talk about charter schools and what charter schools present. So and the dynamics between that. So I think Oh, and as it relates to my children, here's how I looked at education in a multifaceted way, especially when it relates to private and public. And a lot of times for our context, we're Christians. So you talk about a private Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at education a few ways. Do you look at education as needing a religious component, or do you look at it from an academic standpoint?
Yeah.
If you see one, it all depends on how you see one, will judge how you determine what school your children will go to. If you're more heavily focused on the academic aspect, then the Christian school you'll choose would have to still maintain that standard of academic excellence and in comparison to the other public schools and private schools. But if you prioritize the religious component a lot higher, then you may be willing to accept lesser of the academic aspect because of what they benefit on the Christian side. So it's a lot of nuance that talks to. And then, last thing before we transition, the elephant in the room in this conversation is money.
Yeah.
Killer Mike was talking about the fact that he was speaking about the working class people and when we're talking about Black people in America, most of us are working poor. So how many of us can actually afford private school? Most of us can't. So Killer Mike is saying the thing that I believe in is that public school is government funded in a lot of ways, along with the taxpayers. So that means when we leave a public school and flee for a private school, in a lot of ways, we're abdicating our responsibility to demand that government and put the resources into the schools in our community and not leave those kids for essentially for educational death just because they can't afford enough. So there's a lot of nuance to this conversation. Any of y'all want to touch on that a little bit before we shift to the next point? Because we have some other things to talk about.
If you don't mind, let me before Arnell goes, I have a relative that works in a charter school. It's funny you said that, charter school. And even though it's I'm not gonna disrespect, some charter schools are phenomenal, but what is basically, for our listeners, you can Google it, search it yourself. It's basically almost like a private version of public school. It's like a hybrid, and some of them wear uniforms and stuff like that. They're funded by sometimes it's millionaires or whatever the case may be. So they create their own curriculum. And one of my relatives that worked there, you guys have heard this before. Teachers get forgiveness loans. If you serve 5 years in a city, a really rundown area, you can get your loans forgiven. And so what my relative says is that she noticed that the Caucasian teachers are more Caucasian teachers are there as teachers. White teachers are there in urban and city schools, and the school students are predominantly Black. As a matter of fact, this particular school, all of the kids are Black and Hispanic, and majority of the teachers are white. And she's noticed that a couple of them have left. Why? Because they've done their time. They've done their 5 years. Right. And one of the things that really was a shock when she shares is like, she remember one time this white lady was yelling into the soul of these Black kids, like every day. And she was just like upset about it. And she had like a Trump like flag or something, a sticker in the room and all that. So and so she was like, man, I'm really concerned about what's going on in the classroom.
That's right.
And let's just be honest. In a perfect world, in a kumbaya society where all people matter and Black lives really, really do matter and all that, it would be okay to have a white person in the classroom. And I'm not striking down our white listeners and saying, hey, you guys should not be in our classroom. I think, Mike, that should be a conversation that we should have, even if not in this episode or not. But if you're not, let me just say this. If you're not there because you really love urban children and you only there so you can get your loan forgiven, it's going to show after a while. because you have to
Absolutely.
be a certain type of teacher to work in an urban community.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're talking about post-traumatic stress. You're talking about, everything that we suffer as Black people. And so you don't understand these children when they come to school. Like she was sharing, like, yo, some of the kids come to school, their breakfast is Pop-Tarts and soda.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them don't have breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
So right off the bat, their day is starting off in hell. Some of them couldn't sleep the night before because shootouts or things were going on, or they were even molested. And so here you are coming, from drive, and most of them drive from God knows where to go to the school because they don't live in the city.
That's right.
I know it's not really answering your question, but I want to bring this out right off the bat because I see that it's a major problem. And like I said, if you love kids, if you really care, and you really, whether you're white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, it don't care. But if you're white and you do love these kids, yeah, for me. But if you go in there so you can have Uncle Sam cut you a check to forgive you for your loans, and you really don't care, stay your butt out of our schools. Tell you right off the back, stay your butt out of, because you're doing a dishonest service to our children, and it's gonna come back and bite you.
Go ahead, Patience.
Yeah, it always does, man, and that's a good point, because I feel like I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying how there's a lot of dissension because he works at a school that's the same way. Most of the teachers are white, and 90% of the kids are Black or Hispanic, and he is the only Black teacher there. He's the only Black teacher there. So every time there is a disruption with a Black student, they run to grab him. Can you talk to this kid? Can you talk to this kid?
See?
And so what he's saying is the disparity is you have the teachers who don't understand the cultural background of these kids.
That's
and so there is a cultural wall there, right?
Yeah.
That prevents them from being able to relate to this student. And if you cannot relate to them, you cannot teach them.
Yeah.
And so let me say this, you can teach them only to a point, right? You can put the ABCs on the board and they'll get it or they'll not. But if you have a child that is more of an auditory learner or a visual learner, or they need to touch it to learn it, if you understand culture, then you see this kid acting up or acting out, you'll be able to relate to him culturally, right? And get some understanding there, right? But if you don't understand that, if all you have is book knowledge and you just going by your syllabus, and any kid their grades don't line up with what you're teaching in your syllabus, then they got to get out of your class or they must be dismissed from your school, then it's not going to work. See what I'm saying?
That's right.
It has to have more. It has to be more than just, the stuff you put on the board or the assignments that you hand out. Teaching is much more than that. And I'm sure you guys will also attest to this. Your favorite teachers are the ones who had a way of bringing whatever they was teaching to a level where you could not only understand it clearly, but you enjoyed it.
That's right. That's right.
Man, Mike, can I jump in and say one more thing real quick? He's on a point there, because it's not that you guys, talk to our white fans and friends out there. It's not that you can't teach us anything. We're not going to be arrogant like that and like, hey, you can't teach us nothing. We're not going to do that to you. Or like some people like, hey, you can't teach me nothing. No, that's not what it is. It's like you're saying, listen, if you're not coming there, I'm saying once again, with compassion and willingness to say, yo, let me take the time to understand this community. Teach these children. Show them. I had some white teachers in my schools back in Harlem. Well, not Harlem, with downtown Manhattan. That were like, some cared. Some were genuinely cared. Like, open up doors. Like, yo, D, yo, this is what you need to do. And then some were straight jerks. Like, young man, you're just going to be like the statistics. You're going to fail. Case may be. And so I remember even when I was teaching I was substitute teaching in northern Chicago when we used to live in Wisconsin, bro. Like when Arnell said, I was the only black male in the whole building. All of the students were black and Hispanic, and all the teachers were Caucasian and white. Caucasian, mostly females and few males. You see what I'm saying? I'm the only black. So I understand what Arnell was saying. I've had that where here you are now, the only black representation, and all these black kids are looking at you like, is that God? Is that Jesus? It's like, who is this? Is this Superman? Because here I am, the only representation that they see that is not from the hood. You see what I'm saying? And so the same thing, when one of them would get in trouble, Mr. White, can you come down here and talk to? So after a while, all the kids, hey, Mr. White, hey, Mr. White. You know why? I was a superstar to them.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
They can relate.
that honestly, there's something has to be done with that. But my wife who teaches, so she said, listen, a lot of black people don't want to teach.
Sure.
She's generally speaking, but at least in this area, a lot of black people don't want to go in the classroom. So the white people come in and before buildings are gentrified, they gentrify our young people's mind.
That's right. Man, this is powerful stuff, fellas. Powerful stuff. And it just, again, it speaks to the conversation as we began. It started from a very surface level of private school or public school. But as we've just experienced, it's morphed into all of these different nuances and layers when we talk about education and rethinking education, what we're talking about, when we talk about it, and it's so multi-layered, so multifaceted. So as we shift, gentlemen, we talked about primary education mostly, K through 12. But then there's this other aspect of education, this other level. Now, this other level, while DJ Envy and Killer Mike was really talking on the primary level, this next level is where you get the debates on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
This next level is, and I know you gentlemen have seen it for the past few years, I would say 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, we've seen this constant swelling up of or bubbling over of college is a scam. And when you hear that statement, college is a scam, more and more, you're getting people not only embracing it, but celebrating this idea of college being a scam, and then using some of the richest people in the world's comments, in like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. They'll make statements which bolsters this college is a scam movement. And then you have this conversation and it bubbles over, and now it goes to, and then with the celebrity driven culture that we have now, it feels like, well, yeah, Jay-Z didn't go to college. LeBron James didn't go to college. So do I really need college? And so, gentlemen, now once we go through the primary school, now we're into this realm of, okay, primary school, we're not really expecting you to be working. But college and post 18, you're now sort of an adult. So you got to get a job. You have to get a career or a job. You got to make some kind of money, because at some point your parents going to say, hey, baby, you can't be here forever. So that transition, and a lot of times it's our job. We're all parents. So a lot of times people tell us it's our job to get our kids to college or get them situated on a path to adulthood. So, fellas and Patience, we're going to start with you. Is college a scam? Should our kids just forget college and all this student debt and just go be welders or or electricians. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but should they go back to trade school?
Yeah.
Is that the route? Is college a scam, my brother? Talk to me.
So I'll say this. The first part, allow me to answer it this way, and then I'll explain it. Yes and no. Okay, can I answer it that way? The yes part is college tuition is a scam.
Yes.
Okay, for the most part. There are some exceptions to that rule, right? But for the most part, college tuition here in the United States is a flat out scam. It costs way too much for a 4-year degree. Sally Mae, these federal loans, it's out of control. And I've been on the record, it's a bubble that's going to burst because you got people out here getting loans. People out here who never even intend to go to school are signing up, maxing out their federal loans, pocketing the money, and just walking around like they never have no intentions on paying it back. You see what I'm saying? So the way that's going, that is the scam part, right? Now, is going to college and getting a 4-year or a 6-year or even a 12-year degree in some instances, is that a scam? No, because that may be how you find what you're gifted at. That may be how you find and understand your life's purpose. You see what I'm saying? Going to college can be very beneficial for young minds. It can help young minds get molded. It can help young minds understand more about who they are. Shout out to my HBCUs and all of them that's helping young Black minds get molded and opening their minds so they can see greatness, right? They can see other people that have come through those colleges and go on to greatness, and they can see that in themselves. A lot of times they don't see that, as we just talked about, in high school, middle school, elementary. But if you go to college, sometimes you'll see that, right? So college, in that sense, the education piece is not a scam. Now, I will say this, it's not for everyone. College is not for everyone, right? You may be skilled at working with your hands, right? That may be your skill. That may be your gift. So you going, to learn a trade, whatever that trade is, there is no shame in that. It does not make you lesser than, because the truth is there's some people out here with trades that are doing way better in life than the people who went to a 4-year, 6-year, or went and got a 12-year degree in 6-figure debt. You see what I'm saying? So it's not for everyone, but and it should not be presented as, well, you couldn't make it in college, so go get a trade. That's wrong. That is just flat out wrong. You see what I'm saying? It should not be presented in that way. It should be presented as, this is your way to be able to harness your skill and contribute to society. You can go to trade school route, you can go to college route, or guess what? People, you brought up LeBron James, Jay-Z. They knew what their gift was. And because of their gift, like the Bible say, made room for them to excel. Jay-Z, his gift was not rapping, his gift was hustling. He knew how to hustle rap and flip it into owning the 40/40 Club, flip it into owning Rock Nation, flip it into Rockaware, flip it into this, flip it. He knew, and he's still flipping it. He just talked about how he bought an $18 million Rolls Royce that's already worth $40 million right now. And he said, I can't wait to give that to my kids. He's a hustler. So he knew what his gift was, and he used rap in order to excel. The same thing with LeBron James. LeBron James knew he saw basketball different. For him, the game slows down. You see what I'm saying? And God physically gifted him with just about everything except a hairline. You see what I'm saying? He got everything else.
Come home, LeBron. Just come home, LeBron.
Listen, LeBron won't let it go. He refused to let it go.
Let it go,
but God
man.
gave him just about every other. He got height. He got mass. He got strength. He got stamina. He got everything you would need. He got court vision. His mind, that's where his mind excels. People have talked about how LeBron in the film room is a literal genius. He can see stuff the coach don't even see.
Yeah,
you see what I'm
right.
saying? He's a literal genius in the film room. And they say his mind is so sharp. He remembers stuff that people were like, we just ran that play one time. How did you remember that? But that's where he excels.
Yeah.
So for him, he did not need college. And that's okay. That is okay.
Yeah.
But everybody's not LeBron James. That's a one in a generational talent.
Most people ain't never going to be close to LeBron.
Exactly. And this is what I want to say. It really comes back down to us parents, right? We have to understand and help to mold and encourage our children. If you have a LeBron James in your house, you don't need to be trying to force them to go to college. You see what I'm saying? You need to give them the space they need to excel and do it at the highest level. If you have, Elon Musk in your house, you see your child is just different. They just think on a different level. Yeah. You need to do what you can to help them excel. Put them in a place where they can excel. However, if your child is not sure what they should do, college could be a good option for them to help them understand what their gifts are and who they want to be in life.
You know what I'm saying? I may not approve of homosexual marriages or relationship, whatever, but does that mean that I ill-treat you? Does that mean that when you come in my presence, I got to make up my face? Does that mean that, I look at you as a scum of the earth? No. I treat you with the love, the respect, and I accept you for your decision, right? I may not agree with your decision. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So
you can accept that that's the decision that they
made. That's what you have made. You know what I'm saying? So I still treat you like I would want to be treated. That's my golden rule. That's the biblical
golden
rule too.
It still stands to this day. Literally.
Yeah. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You know what I'm saying?
Everything like racism, discrimination in the workplace, like
mental health.
Just make that put that in the Constitution, okay? Somebody.
Matter of fact, that should be the only thing in the Constitution,
right? Literally, because what else are you talking about in here? Like what?
Yeah, if you listen, if that's all what the Constitution was about, trust me.
I'm gonna call Biden. I'm gonna let him know next time.
Things would be better,
Man, powerful. Kick it, Denry.
Right. So I want to answer the question with that question in the sense, why the rush?
That's not how you answer questions.
Hey, Jesus did it. Jesus did it. You ain't follower of Christ. You ain't follower of Christ. I am a follower of Christ. I would do it the way he does it.
But you answer the question, man.
So answer the question this way: why the rush? Like, who says that it's mandatory that after a student finishes high school, like they have to go to college? I have students right now in my churches who just.
Can I answer that question? Why the rush? Because you got to get out your mama's house. That's why.
That's why I said that. I gave you context, brother. I gave you context. You gonna stay in your parents' house forever? There's a time clock, brother.
I was talking. You gotta get out.
I was talking to my wife, and she was talking about that injustice that we do as Black communities, to our children. Like we rush them out, and
I agree with that. I agree with that. I do agree with that.
We rush them out, and they get into debt. They have to go figure out an apartment. Okay, think about I'll speak for me. I don't know about you two, but all three of us, to tell the truth, all three of us have changed our careers. Like we're in ministry. That's not how we were when we were 21.
No,
I ain't have a career at 21, man.
What were you doing at 21, Mike?
At 21, I was a college dropout, man.
Okay, there you go.
But what you're saying is so true. It just we deviated, but we're gonna come back. Yeah. What you're saying, and from a personal standpoint, I do believe, because I felt in some ways pressured to grow up faster than I need. Because our society does a disservice to 18-year-olds. 18-year-olds are not adults. Those are not grown people. Yeah, those are kids. Science has already told us that the human mind doesn't develop till 25. Yeah. And even a 25-year-old for the most part, makes bad decisions. We all do.
There you
So
go.
I agree with you that I think part of why I was a college dropout at 21 is because I felt this weight of one, because I had my own apartment at that time and nobody else really did. And I felt the pressure of, well, I didn't have, I grew up in a project. So we didn't have the kind of undergirding and floor that a lot of other communities have, particularly white communities or people with wealth, because like you said, a lot of times they have the wealth to, when you bump your head, like you're saying, Denry, now you don't got to go to college the first year, maybe 2 to 3 years. You just sit here for a little bit and you kind of learn. But go ahead, brother. So that is true. Go ahead.
Let's look at
I got something to add to that. Go ahead.
Let's look at the model of the homes within the past 20th century and 21st century, right? Look at families back then. We used to have I'm talking about Eastern culture, like we coming from Africa and all that, and Asia and all that. They had what was called, even Hispanic cultures have extended families. So you live there, your parents live there, your grandparents live there, your aunties, uncles, and everybody bringing in the money to add into the pot. Now what we have now is more called the individual home model. You and your wife, you and your lady, you and your husband, whatever the case may be, y'all on your own living in Oregon while your family lives in Florida. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this distancing. So now we have to fend for ourselves over here.
Yeah.
Then the pride, man, I'm really struggling right now, but I can't ask my mom, for money and stuff like that. And then you may have those ladies, if you're a man, we speaking, we're men here, so you ladies excuse us for sometimes sounding one way, but you put yourself in the shoes. You have black men being raised and taught you have to be the money provider. You have to, you can't live in mom's house, that kind of mentality. What kind of man are you? You're asking your mother for money and all that stuff. You serve your family for money. And so that's stupid psychology in our head now. And so we're trying to out here survive, trying to keep our head above water, struggling. So that's why I'm saying, why the rush? Why are we rushing our young men and young ladies out of the house so much? Some of them don't even know. I remember when I started college, I had a clue. My mom was like, yo, you good at computers. Go do computers. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I shared this a long time. West Indians, we Jamaicans, and West Indians and immigrants in general, when we come to America, it's land of opportunity. So our parents tell us, listen, don't come here, waste no time.
That's right.
Forget about a gap here. You're going to get a good education, get a good job. So it's not until our children now, those who come from the islands or other countries, our children come here and they're like, oh, boom, boom, boom. I can do this. I can be a YouTuber. I can do this. I don't have to go to college. And so you're hearing this, but you're hearing the challenge from your parents, and your parents are like, education, good job. Good job now. Not go work for yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? Compared to our children are now like, yo, man, all my kids want to be entrepreneurs. All of my kids want to be entrepreneurs. Not one of them wants a job. The closest is one of my daughter says now that she wants to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a different mindset than what I was raised with. And so to answer your question, Mike, why the rush? Why are we killing off our young people to put them in debt, taking out student loans and stuff like that? Who says you have to start college when you're 18, 19, 17, and you have to know what you want to do? Why can't we allow our young people to maybe work with a mechanic job, test different things, go to different places, test it out, try entrepreneurship. You see those movies, and the white kids have a lemonade stand.
Yeah,
at 8 years old.
In fact. That's a fact.
At 8 years old.
That's a fact.
You see, what are they teaching them? You see what I'm saying? When we was in Harlem, Mike, I was in Harlem. There's a Chinese store, and I was there for 20 years. It was family members that were just passing through, taking over.
That's right.
Family members. Woo. We weren't doing that for our kids. So now what we do is, boom, I'm finally get some freedom. You're 18 now. You need to go. I want to get my groove back on. If you're a single parent, I want to get my groove back on. I want to see what I got out there. Your mom and I need our own space so we can walk naked in the house. We don't want you around.
You a freak.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what's going on. You know, I mean, but that's what's going on. That's my answer to the question, Mike. We are drowning our kids out there. So at first, when my wife and I was like, yeah, man, I can't wait till they turn 18. My wife was like, nah, we're not going to do that to them. I'm like, what you mean? And then she explained, and I was like, oh. Yeah. So I told my kids, I said, listen, if it don't work out for you right away, don't be ashamed to come back home.
Right.
Matter of fact, we want to help you start your nest, your investment, whatever. You can you can start it here at home.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Man. So that's just my answer to your question. Why?
Man, you took it to another level, brother. You took it to another level, man. You added a dynamic to it that I think is healthy, bro. I think it's healthy to this conversation about, you know, because now you're getting to a deeper layer of, we're just saying this as an option, but before you even get there, what was your life like? And just to add this, and Patience, I know you wanted to add a piece to it. I think a lot of it, and I shared this article with you guys, a lot of the time our kids are not actually educationally and academically prepared for college, because what's been happening now is a grade inflation in primary school. So kids are getting inflated grades, particularly in urban communities as well as private. But the difference is, of course, is some groups have financial stability so that when they get to college and they're failing because their academic level isn't to the esteem that it should be, but they were greased through, when they fail out, they have an economic floor to support them. Versus the urban kid, when you've been greased through in your school and you get to college and you realize that you only have a 3% reading math level, and you got to take remedial math, and you start to feel the pressure of knowing those around you were more prepared than you are, you drop out. Where is the support system? So I think a lot of times when you talk about the Chinese family, they already had an economic floor to begin that business. Because of, particularly with the ADOS community, when you go through 246 years of chattel slavery, 100 years of Jim and Jane Crow, you've not had any economic base to support you while your kids are trying to do things. And what was told to us, 80s Cosby era, was just go to college. If you just go to college, that's your passport. That's your ticket to freedom, when all it is really becoming a ticket to debt. But then we look at it as, well, what the alternative is, what? Work at McDonald's?
Exactly.
But what you're saying is, Denry, is, well, now we have to start having these deeper conversations of, wait, before you get there, what are the things that we're putting in place? Patience, go ahead, man, before we shift, because we could go on this all night.
But y'all know Mike. Hey, B.Honest Universe, y'all know Mike. Mike will get, hey, he'll take 2 hours.
Listen, he's dropping gems though, man. He's dropping gems though, man. But
go ahead. Yeah, he's going deep. He's going into it.
What I wanted to say was, in reference to what Denry is saying, is I wanted to add to what he's saying, which is, I think in the Black communities and other communities, we have to do a better job of planning early, starting early. And I was going to bring up the point that you made about the lemonade stand, Denry. That was such a valiant point, because what that does is it not only teaches your kid entrepreneurship, but what it does is it starts to set in their mind, is this a route I want to take? Do I like entrepreneurship, or do I prefer just doing it another way, working a skill or being part of a larger group? See what I'm saying? Because when you work, you work, whether it's in corporate America, healthcare, whatever, you're a part of a larger team that's accomplishing a goal. Whereas entrepreneurship is, okay, I got this on my back and I'm hiring other people under me, but I'm the one driving the shit. Yeah. See what I'm saying? And the earlier you can expose your children to that, I think it'll help develop in their mind whether, you know what, I like this entrepreneur thing. I wake up for it. I live for it. I love being able to give people opportunities and support them and build a team and execute. Or you can say, you know what, that's not really my lane. I don't really like having to do payroll. And you see what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm responsible. If we don't get enough business, this person, I got to lay this person off. And I don't want to do all of that. Yeah. Let me just use my skills, go be a part of another team, and then I'll be a part of the team that's making the whole thing go. You see what I mean? And neither lane is wrong. Neither lane is wrong.
Right.
But I wanted to say it's important that we expose our children to that early. That way it helps them formulate in their mind. That way it takes away some of the, well, I'm 18 and I don't know what I want to do. You see what I'm saying? If we start exposing them to things early, right? For instance, my daughter loves animals, right? So when she turns 12, I've already been talking to some veterinarians. When she turns 12, I'm going to let her go and work under some veterinarians to see if she likes that.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm going to expose her to that.
Right.
Let her work there. They're going to let her, volunteer there. She's a volunteer. They'll let her volunteer there for a couple of hours every day during the summer to see if that's what she likes to do. And guess what? If she doesn't like it, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't have to start this process when they become 18.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
That's
We
right.
start the process now. That way, by the time they come 18, 19, and I also agree with the point that just because you say, hey, listen, it's time for you to step out, go to college, go to trade school, do this, it doesn't mean you're not welcome back here.
Yeah.
That's the part I don't agree with. You should, as long as your child, even if your child's not making the best decisions, you should be able to, there should be a safe haven where they can come back and you can help them get recalibrated back on solid ground and then go back out into the world again, or strike out and try to do what they can. You know what I mean? So I understand those points and I agree with those points. My only thing I wanted to add is I think we ought to start earlier, exposing our children to different things that we see they kind of like.
Yeah.
Let's expose them to that in a way where they would be doing it on a day-to-day basis to see if this just a hobby or is this kind of what you want to do as your profession. The earlier we do that, I think we do them justice in the sense of helping them understand how they can contribute to the larger society.
I think exposure, that's one of the things that I wouldn't say we don't have in our community, but if we had more exposures, I never remember.
No, say it. No, say that. No, that's the point, Denry. We don't have it.
Say it.
Our community isn't exposed. You got to say it.
I remember watching this.
Tell the truth.
It was like 2005. My wife and I was watching this documentary about Chicago, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it. And this young man who's doing life because 3 strikes and you're out. You know how the system does for us. And that's another thing we got to talk about. My wife, let me just interject that for promo for the next show. My some educators I was talking to, they said, y'all think those tests and everything, those Iowa tests and all that is just for grades? One of the things they use them for, based on the failing rates and stuff, is how many seats or how many more space in prison, projected time for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, so when our kids take those tests, especially in our communities, based on the failing rates, they project how much more space in prison. Think about it. All the places. Prison?
Yeah.
Prison.
Yeah.
Because they see, okay, they're going to fail. They're not going to make it through high school. They're going to drop out.
Yep.
So then they're not going to get a regular job. They love what the rappers have to offer. So they're going to rob, steal, do whatever they need to do. So we need to have space for them.
There you go.
So when people say this crap about there's no such thing as systematic racism, come on.
It is.
You're not talking to we have three cats, educated cats here, okay? You ain't talking to a bunch of dummies here. We know the heck we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so one of the problems, Michael, like you said, exposure. So he was saying, yo, I'm doing life because in my community, when he's in Chicago, he didn't see lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't see owners of anything. He didn't see teachers, doctors. He didn't see that. What he saw was what? Pimps, drug dealers, liquor store owners, probably a food shack, a person, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? He didn't see that. So he didn't have examples. And I remember when I was in Harlem, there were cats who never left Brooklyn, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Never left Brooklyn.
Of course.
Like that's all they knew, Arnell. And you probably have people from College Park or whatever.
Sure,
never left College Park.
Nope.
None of those.
That's all they know.
And so in your mind, you're like, yo, this is my world. This is all I know. So I'm here to survive, not to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing that our communities need is more exposures.
Exposure.
So but here's the other thing, real quick, because we like to do this, and I understand why, but we don't go back to our communities and show our faces.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to do the black flight. We made it. We self-made and we made it. But our communities that we were raised in, they don't see us. And I know it's hard because sometimes you go back, you can't, you're not welcome back. You're considered a sellout, all that stuff. You may even lose your life, whatever the case may be. And so there's also that fear, like everybody wants to get out the ghetto, but nobody wants to get back to the ghetto. Nobody wants to show face into the ghetto like, yo, is that Denry? Oh, snap. Yo, what are you doing with yourself? Boom, boom, boom. I'm pastor. What? You? I remember when my teacher, my principal saw me when I was elementary, junior high school, and she almost passed out. She couldn't believe that I was a pastor because I was a knucklehead, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, yo, my black principal saw me, and she was like, thank God she saw me. The next year she died. But she couldn't believe. Because why? God had a different hand on me. But my point real quick is exposure. Get our young people out, man. Sometimes all you could do is just take them to different states, take them to someplace different, let them see. Let them see something different besides what they see on a regular day.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And you guys, I mentioned this to you guys before, but you guys know Taurus Montgomery, who works in Benton Harbor, Michigan. He has a church there at Harbor of Hope. And he said that he just every year he tries to round up a group of kids, high school kids, freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, that he knows, like, he talks to them, builds relationships with them. But what he does is gets a van and takes them up to the University of Michigan, right? Mm-hmm. And they spend the whole day up there. They walk around campus. They go to the cafeteria. They eat because he wants to expand their mind. And he wants them to see. He said he knows some of the black professors that work there, and other people can come and just sit with them and say, he wants them to say, you know what, I can see myself here. You know what I mean? And even if all of them, see, what's the likelihood that all of them are going to go to University of Michigan? It's small. However, what that does is, though, it helps them to see something beyond their neighborhood.
Yeah,
that's right.
You see, it's something to aspire to that's beyond your neighborhood. You know what I mean? There's a bigger world out here. Because sometimes growing up in your neighborhood, that is your world. But you're familiar, you know all the players, you know what's going down. And listen, especially if it's inner city where a lot of drugs and crime, and you're a young black man, you like next in line. You grooming, especially if you know the drug dealers, you know the players, right? They grooming you because you next in line. You see what I'm saying? Right. You gonna walk, you're gonna take your place on the streets and do your thing. So if you're not exposed to something else to say, no, there's something else out here. I can go beyond. You know what I mean? And strike out and do something else with my life. Exposure is key, man. So I agree with that.
Yeah, man, powerful stuff, gentlemen, man. What a great conversation. There's so many things to touch on as it relates to education, man. This is just, with everything that we're talking about, it's just so important. And as we just give our final thoughts, I just want to give one quickly before you guys go and give our final thoughts just about this. And let me scratch that. Not our final thoughts, but just this thought, because there's going to be many more thoughts about this conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Be honest, family. Y'all know how we do. These are the conversations that we enjoy. We love. We have these offline and online, and so we know you all are having those conversations too. And we're just trying to add to, just give you a different perspective from three different men, but close friends, just sharing different ways of how maybe you can view it. So just closing, fellas, just really what I want to talk about a little bit as we relate to rethinking education. Again, education looked like this was our way out, and particularly primary education. But for whatever reason, even though we know the reason, it hasn't been. And when we're talking about the conversation of entrepreneurship, 98% of Black entrepreneurs are sole proprietorship. What that means is Black entrepreneurs don't even have the equity to afford to hire staff.
Right.
What we've experienced, ADOS community in America specifically, but the Black community at large, what we've experienced is economic depravity.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that economic depravity, it forces us to operate in scarcity.
Yeah.
And we operate on this level of scarcity so that throughout our kids' primary school, we're always pressuring them in different ways where they're understanding that's why kids work at 14 and 15 and 16. They always have to work. So the mindset of working is already instilled in them. So by the time college comes around, they're not even thinking about college because they're already talking about getting jobs. And then when we talk about them getting jobs, they're only thinking about now in this culture, they're thinking about, again, entrepreneurship. Not that it's a bad thing, but what it has created is a group of individualistic people and people that are not willing to contribute to really what others have versus what I can gain. And so when we talk about this education, it starts with how do we see ourselves in community? And the ugly word that people don't like to hear is how do we engage politically?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that we're talking about has a political component to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should understand that politics affects every aspect of your life. There is no way to avoid it. There is no way to abdicate it. And there was a legacy of being politically engaged that would create the HBCUs, create the necessity to merge students in schools that they weren't allowed to be in. So as we continue in this conversation of education on a higher level, on a lower level, let us remember that we rise and fall together as a collective. Denry, hit us with their closing remarks before we get up out of here.
I mean, that's phenomenal, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my closing thoughts is directed to the government. You know, stop defunding urban education, city education. Stop doing it. Stop tapping into our resources and then putting these blank checks back into our resources. You know, come on. You know, and to our people in the home, listen. There might be a lot of we are relentless people as a minor Black community, Hispanic community, people who have suffered to oppression. We are relentless. They've been trying to get rid of us forever, and we keep rising. There have been successful entrepreneurs through the hood, athletes, entertainers, all that. No matter what they throw at us, we keep rising. Mm-hmm. And so keep rising. And so to the single mom out there, the single dad, there's things you can do. Take your children to the library. Libraries still exist. Let them get exposed to something different. Take the bus fare, take them to the museum. You know, those things like that. Let them see something different.
Absolutely.
I know it might sound white. I know it might sound white, but it's not.
It's not.
Educational, you know, speaking proper, that's not white. Don't let them tell you that foolishness. You know what I'm saying? Right. Expose them, take them out of town now and then. Take them to the lake. Take them to the lake so they can see something different.
Yep.
My thing is, I'm just asking you parents, I know sometimes the money is tight. You're waiting for the food stamp or whatever the case may be. Listen, but you could do, if you really want to do it, it could be done. And we serve a mighty God that looks over and has favor on you. Just take your children out. Mm-hmm. Let them get exposed to good things. Mm-hmm. They see a lot of bad stuff, but let them see something. Let them go to a doctor's office. Mm-hmm. Speak to the doctor and say, hey, could they all see the doctors? Do you mind if we just could stand here and he just observe you and see what you do? Mm-hmm. You know, could you tell them about college? A shout out to Dr. North, my dentist, who was trying to get me into a college at Cornell. Remember Cornell University, Mike, up in Manhattan? Yeah, he was trying to expose me to Cornell University. Shout out to cats like that who believed in young Black people like us. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, once again, my thing here is it starts at home. Education starts at home, but you can add to that exposure, good exposures. Think of how you can expose your children to something different so they can say, I'd like to try that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's well said, man. And I want to just bring it home by saying that just to piggyback on what Denry said, parents, understand that educating your children is primarily your responsibility.
Yes.
It's not the responsibility of the school that you send them to. It's not the responsibility of the college that you send them to. It is your responsibility. And that education starts by what you model in front of them. See what I'm saying? Because 9 times out of 10, kids are going to do what you do instead of doing what you say.
Yes.
So that education starts with what type of example are you putting around them, right? Is your example that your job is more important than your home life? Is your example, hey, it's all about the money and everything else can fall by the wayside? Or is your example, hey, I'm just gonna sleep on the couch all day and then just wait for the next check to come in the mail? That's how I'm gonna live my life. What kind of example are you setting for your children, right? And just like Denry said, take your children out, expose them, spend that quality time with them, talk to them. Libraries, as far as I know right now, get a library card, is still free. You can check books out.
Sir.
You can go sit at the lake. As far as I know, they don't charge you for that. You can sit at the lake and y'all can read a book together. Y'all can check out the same book and say, I'm gonna read a page and you read a page. Do things together. Do things and learn together, grow together with your kids. Don't just always send them off. Hey, you just go do your homework. No, say, come sit down at the table. Let me see what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? And walk and work with them. Journey with them on this journey of education, because primarily it is your responsibility to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so those are my final thoughts.
Awesome. Gentlemen, phenomenal stuff, man. Be honest, family. You knew what we was going to do when we was touching this topic, man. Get my man Fred book, man.
We want to give a quick book shout out before we leave.
Shout out to our guy, man.
And this book talks about the same thing we just talked about today.
That's right.
It's called Breaking the Orbit. And y'all make sure I say the last name right, because you know me with my accent.
Bussy.
It's for Frederick Douglass. What?
Bussy.
Thank you. Get yourself a copy. And that, like Arnell said, ain't nothing like reading a book. Listen, he might be an eyesore to us now as Black community. We're talking about Dr. Ben Carson, but his story in that Think Big is about his mother who helped him and had public assistance and got other people to help him, which he said, "Oh, pull yourself by your bootstraps, whatever." Yeah. Listen, she couldn't read, but she made sure that he learned how to read. Museum, all that stuff. So remember, get yourself a copy of this.
That's right.
Educate your children. It starts at home.
Phenomenal. Hey, man. I thank you, brothers, as always, just for us to have this conversation and be able to just be honest with our people. And so, family, y'all know where y'all can catch us on Spotify, on Anchor. You could get to our Instagram page, Be Honest Podcast on Instagram. I think we on Facebook too, right? Are we on Facebook? We on Facebook too.
I think are we, or that under your page?
Are we on Facebook? Do you use that?
Yeah, Arnell, are we on Facebook, Arnell?
Nah, don't ask me. Don't ask me. That's you.
So,
we're on Facebook. We're on Facebook.
All streaming platforms, all social media. You can find us. Be honest, we ain't got a Twitter yet because Denry don't like to tweet, I guess. So we don't get a Twitter, but all streaming platforms. Everybody, somebody just snuck in. Look, somebody just snuck in. Look, the kids just be popping in. This is what happens with Be Honest.
They want encourage. They start the podcast now. They said, "Listen, Dad, forget you. We want to start our podcast now. You taking up all the time. We could have did the show in 5 minutes."
Yo, listen, we told y'all early on. This is what happens with Be Honest. We gonna be honest. We're fathers. We're men. We love our kids, and kids love us. But
before you go, Arnell, Sabbath Sneaker. We see the sneakers in the background. What's going on? I hear you got a new season. What's going on? Tell us about Sabbath Sneakers, man.
Giving them plugs, man.
Yeah, man. We're Sabbath Sneaker Podcast. You can also find us on all streaming sites.
All the sneakers in there.
You know, we talk about sneakers. We talk about culture, man. You know, look us up, man. So if you love sneakers, man, you know, and if you love to be a part of all things sneaker culture, man, and a part of the larger culture, man, we also get into some good topics over there, man. So we love to have you as part of our Sabbath Sneaker family as well. So look us up on IG at Sabbath Sneakers. That's where you can find us right now. And we're branching out. We'll be on YouTube and all these other places real soon. So check for us.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, family, it's dope. Be honest, world. You know we love you guys, and we always leave you with the same parting words. Be honest with yourself, be honest with your family, and most importantly, be honest with God. Peace.
Peace.